Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop, and today we're dancing with the devil. This is the Joint Maker Pro by Bridge City. Now it's kind of the hand tool that thinks it's a power tool. And I did a video showing off the new tool that I purchased a little while ago from Bridge City, and a viewer contacted me and said, hey, would you like to actually try this? And I'm like, yes, I would, but I don't have the money for it. He said, I'll send it to you so you can try it and then you can send it back. And I said, great, let's make a video. Now with hand saws, hand tools in general, the skill is in the use of the tool. I can set this saw up to be, absolutely perfect in every facet, sharpened, fit to the hand exactly, perfectly balanced, nice and straight, perfect set. And then I can give it to someone who doesn't know how to use it and they do a horrible job of work. And the reason for that is when you're working with hand tools, the skill is in the use. It's actually in driving the tool. Now when you look at a table saw, the skill isn't in the actual use. If I set up a table saw and get everything set up with the fences and the jigs and everything ready to run on it, any monkey can run boards through it and get great work. It has to do with the skill being moved from the actual use of the tool to the setting up of the tool. And that is kind of the big difference between this saw and this saw. This whole thing is a jig for a hand saw, which is a really fascinating idea. See, a jig is there to do one of two things. Either, number one, it makes things faster, so you can do more things repeated. You can do the exact same method over and over and over and over again. Or number two, a jig is there to make something more accurate, something that once it's set up, you know that if you put it on here and you run it through, it's going to give you the exact same thing. And in both of those lean towards repeatability. It will either increase speed or it will increase accuracy, and it does that through a process that is repeatable. And that's what makes this a lot of fun. So today I want to actually take a look at what all this can do, and then I'll come to my conclusions about, am I going to buy one? First off, there's a saw here, and you can get this with different teeth, different accuracies, and different cuts. And this saw will also go up and down. Just like on a table saw, you can raise and lower it by cranking the handle. You can also change its angle. So I can loosen up this knob and then one on the other end as well. I can also remove these stops here and I can pivot the whole rack. So now I can set it to some new angle, lock it down on there. This thing also has these stops, so I know I can always get it back to this point. It has a stop here and a stop here, so that at this point it's not going to move. I don't even have to lock this down. These stops are locked in to keep it right at 90 degrees. I could also set up a stop to put it right at 45 degrees. There, and so I could rotate this stop back here up into place, and now I know when it's there I can lock it down and I'm cutting at 45 degrees. The key function to this all right down here is the drive. So when I turn this crank, it's rotating this screw and this screw at the exact same speed. So I'm raising and lowering the whole saw together. Then also at this end there's another knob, and this just changes this one end. So I'm raising and lowering this end independently. This knob determines the angle at which the saw is set, as well as how deep this will cut on each particular pass. Another interesting addition is this little stop here. This will allow me to then stop it, so when it hits that stop, I know that the front end of the saw is all the way down below it. I can actually move that so that there is a top end, so it would run out on the other end, and that would mean that I'm only cutting so deep. I can set the amount that I want to actually cut in the kerf every time. Then on top of the whole thing, the bed moves. And so like a traditional table saw, you push the work through the saw. You're going to do the exact same thing here, but all of these guides are set up so that all four of these guides are exactly parallel to the saw. So when you push it forward, it runs along the saw every time. Now these are all independent, so I can loosen up all of these knobs. So if I wanted to set up some weird angle on it, I can actually wiggle these all around until I can get that angle that I'm looking for. I can also change the orientation of the fence to then set a different angle, and I can slide these at different spots, so if I need more support out here, this allows me to go. I can also just use one plate at a time, disconnecting these two from the fence. It comes in stock with this angled fence and stop blocks, and I can use these stop blocks as a stop so that the board I'm cutting always comes in at the same point and I can cut that. Or I can have them with these angles. This will actually suck the board into place so that it's not wanting to tip at all. Same thing on the keeper that will go on the other side. I can lock these both down in, and each time I'm sliding the board in and out, these are locked in place so that the board can't go up. It's held down as well as held in place. As well as with the angled, it does come with a straight, and they're all held in place with this little dovetail key, so I can take this one out and I can slide this one into place. As well as at any time, I could go ahead and make my own dovetail and run that on here. So this has 100 different ways of setting things up. I can change the angle of the blade, put a board on vertically, and then I can go ahead and cut the tails for my dovetails. Or I could actually change the orientation of the vents, put the blade vertical, and run it through at an angle this way, and that will allow me to cut my pins. And then I can lay it down on its side, and I can cut the shoulder out for that. And this is just, there are lots of different options for this when it comes to joinery. The biggest one that comes to my mind is actually doing the shoulders on tenons. So if I want to cut the shoulder, I've got this block that will keep the board from moving forward and backward or up and down. I've got a stop block over here so I can slide it in and every time have my shoulder at the same spot. And I can run through this, take it off, rotate it over, and I can run it through, and I got my shoulder on the other side, and I know that these two shoulders are going to match up exactly. Here you can see the two shoulders, and they line up exactly. You can see I cut almost all the way through the board. With this pine, you can make a really deep cut. So what is the downside to this particular thing? Well, the biggest thing is that you can only cut so deep, and that really depends on the wood you use as well as the thickness of the board you're going to be cutting. If I'm cutting something like maple, I have to adjust this angle down a bit lower so that I'm only taking off 1/16, 1/8 inch or so each pass. But then I can give it one crank and run it through again, give it one crank, run it through again, give it one crank, run it through again until I reach my stop. That lets me know I've gone all the way through at that particular cut. So if I'm doing a 6-inch wide board and I need to cut all the way across, I'm probably only going to be able to cut off an 1/8 inch per pass. But if I'm doing something like 1.5-inch pine, I can probably do a 1/2 inch per cut. If I'm doing something like a poplar dowel, I can cut through almost 3/4 in one pass. It can chomp through a lot of material very quickly, as long as everything is dialed in well. Now, one of the immediate thoughts that came to my mind was, ooh, kumiko, we could do that. And yes, you can do that. You can set the angle to whatever you want. If that be that 68.5 degree that you need for that weird one, you can do that. Or you can stack all your pieces together and have them all cut at the same time. And I'm actually gonna be doing that. I have a video coming up soon where we'll be doing some kumiko, and I played around on this. Yeah, for a lot of that, it's very useful. It is very repeatable. It is very accurate. It is a very clean cut. It gives you something that once you set it up, you can do a whole bunch of them very quickly and efficiently and know that you're going to get exactly what you want. It is a hand tool that thinks it's a power tool, and it does it very well. But this then comes down to the whole thing of, why do I like hand tools? I like hand tools because I have to learn the skill to do it right. I can cut with this handsaw just as accurately and cleanly as this will. And most of the time, if I'm just doing one or two, I can do it faster with this. Now, if I'm doing a whole bunch and having things set up exactly the same and marking them all out, this will improve the speed. But the big reason I got into hand tools is, in order for this to be just as accurate and just as fast, you've got to spend a lot of time with this. And I'm talking years of work and practice to get the skill required to run a handsaw. Whereas with this, you know, you're going to have to learn some things. You're going to have to get things set up. You're going to have to learn how to set things up and how to align things. But do it 3 or 4 times and you can get just as accurate things out of that as a master with a saw. And so it kind of comes down to that. For me, the fun of hand tools is the skill you have to learn to get it done. Actually learning the skill is what's enjoyable to me. Being able to freehand something and just do it without having to think about jigs, without having to think about anything holding it up. You're just cutting to a line. That is incredibly exhilarating and freeing. And this kind of takes away from that. However, if you are worried about fine woodworking, but you want to do it in a quieter shop, then this may be the answer for you, because this will give you fine, high quality work right off the bat. And this will treat you very, very well. Now, a couple other downsides. Number one, this is a big tool. It is, other than my lathe, the biggest tool I have in the shop. Most of my tools are around this size. I can't just put this on the wall. I have to have a space for this. I have to have a function. When I'm using it, it takes up the whole bench. Is it worth that? If you're in a tight shop with hand tools, that may be a big downside to this. But if you already have a larger shop with other power tools, this could be great for that. Now there's lots of other topics I could think about, pros and cons about why you want it, but I kind of want to give that quick overview on what this is and what my thought process is on. That being said, the one last thing I want to talk about is price. Most of my saws I have purchased for $5–10 and restored them. Some of them, like my Veritas that I use all the time, cost me $60. I have a couple saws that are worth $200 to $300. Those are really nice saws. This, on the other hand, cost more than twice the price of any saw I've ever owned, or most that I've ever looked at. I have purchased 4 cars that were cheaper than this. So, yeah, price is a big thing, and if you're tight on budget, spend the time, learn the skill, and you can get just as good quality. But if you've got the money, and you like the gizmosity, and you like setting things up, and you like the jigs, you might want to look at this. And if you really like gizmosity, this also you can buy with other jigs and fences that allow you to do other crazy things for joinery, allowing you to do things far more repeatable, far more accurately. But again, you then have to add more price onto it. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. I actually have to say, when I'm using this, I'm enjoying it. It is fun, it is enjoyable, and that's really the reason why I have the shop. So is this something I'm going to buy? I have to say thank you for Jim for letting me borrow this. Is this something I'm going to buy now? Not right now. Number one, I just don't have the space in the shop for it. This takes up a serious amount of space. Number two, it's not going to save me that much more time. You'll probably see me use this in a few projects coming up, like the Kumiko, where I'm experimenting and playing with things. But I'm going to be sending it back to Jim, and I'm not going to be buying one of my own. But who knows what the future holds? I might win the lottery, in which case I might get a bigger shop, and then I'll be like, yeah, let's buy one. But yeah, I would have to play the lottery first. Huge thank you to Jim for letting me play with this. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and it was a good thing to have. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you own one? Do you think about owning one? What are some of the pros and cons? What are some of the things that I didn't talk about that I probably should have? If you want to see more videos on the actual function and using this, I have a few of those coming up. As well as you might want to look at Stumpy Nubs. He did a couple videos with it and actually did some joinery and interesting things like that. So there are lots of other videos out, and it is a lot of fun. But unfortunately, it's not for me. So I hope you like this. If you do have any thoughts, comments, ideas, snide remarks, weird comments, all that stuff, put it down below. That really helps out the channel. Thank you for that. Even if they are comments of you really did something poorly, thank you for putting that up there. I learned from a lot of them, and it does help maintain this channel and keep us going. If you'd like to help out in other ways, you can click the like, share, subscribe. Those really help out the channel. Thank you. Also, everyone scrolling over the side, they're from Patreon or members who've clicked the join button down below. Thank you for that. You are quite literally keeping the lights on. On top of all that, I want to say thank you to everyone who has purchased from the Wood by Wright store, woodbywright.com/shop. There we have a bunch of products that I sell, and all the proceeds from that go to help keeping the channel running. So thank you for that. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Why do I have an overwhelming desire to hook up a motor and reciprocating action to fully motorize this thing? Now that would be fun. Maybe I should bring back the rocket and have some fun with that.